The best possible news so far is that we have a new council member, Stella Weatherspoon. She is on here. I don't see her camera on, but it is early in the morning, so I don't blame her. I've spent the past couple of years, working with Stella, and same with a couple of my other council members. She is, in a nutshell, is one of the nicest, most patient, and undoubtedly one of the smartest policy wonk people we have in our city. And it is honestly our honor to get her onto our council, and very much looking forward to working with her, because she is a wonderful person to work with. It was unanimous. We have some great candidates, but Stella is just really over and above, what we expect even for any of our council members. She's probably more qualified than a lot of us that are on council. So, and the good news is that the chamber next month is going to be highlighting Stella. So save your questions for Stella for next month, and it will be all her. So now I will try to share my, can I, Holly, can you make me host so I can share? We practiced this earlier. It does work. Oh, all right. Give it a couple. Okay. And I will share. All right. So first off, this was Stella, and our are you guys seeing this little measurement? So Stella Witherspoon, very happy to have her here. So one of the other big things happening in our city, I'll go through some important things happening in our city. Our recent Vistas mailer was a complete success. We rarely get feedback on Vistas. And so it was so surprising this year. We sent it out, just a couple of weeks ago, and we got a ton of emails commenting on how helpful this one was. It was called Planning for Growth and Sustaining What We Love, which is basically where Lafayette is right now. And so it made the most comments that we were getting in was on our major projects map, which had an update. So here's our newest major projects map. And this format, I think in particular, people really enjoyed. And so it kind of color coded the major projects around town, whether they are built or in process or, not yet built. And people enjoy, and all the pictures around it, describing them. People very much enjoyed this map. What is important about this map is that we are a pro-housing city. We have been for actually a very long time. In fact, our city has never denied a multi-housing project in our city's history. We are actually looking into getting a pro-housing designation from HCD. And I know it sounds scary, but the town of Moraga has already done it. And if you look at our amount of building and the amount of stuff that we have done, we don't think it's actually going to be a big lift at all. We think it's not going to be very hard for us to get this designation. And it does help us in terms of trying to get grants and everything like we're trying to pursue for 949 Moraga Road. But anyways, it was just fun to have this Vistas be so popular this year. All right, so now that we just recently approved the Oak Hill project. That's the one right across from Millie's. And it is after we upzoned. So originally the design for this one was actually only the left part of the building. And it was actually much more front loaded towards the street and everything like that. But when we upzoned as part of our housing element upzone, they actually had this project in mind and wanted this project instead of the other project. So as soon as we upzoned, they presented us this project, and it had hardly any opposition. It is big, but it is in a good place in our city. Right next to the freeway off ramp there, and obviously close to Safeway and everything. And it's big and it's tall. It is a density bonus, and so there's 90 condos with 11 below market rate units. And being a density bonus project, our city has literally no say in terms of accepting this, but Brian Griggs and, oh shoot, now I'm forgetting his name. They live here in Lafayette and they care. And so they made it as, I think, as pretty as we could expect something like this in Lafayette. So, we went through and we unanimously approved this. The second one that we approved recently was Oak Hill Place. And this is the one right behind the crosses. And so what's very interesting about this one is that it could have it could have been a very big project because of its vicinity next to BART. If somebody had proposed something very large and very dense on that entire site, again, we would have had very little recourse to change it. But instead, this wonderful woman who owns the property, she dedicated the front of the property to the Hillside Memorial group who is maintaining the crosses, and then is only developed behind it. And it's 17 single-family homes with 3 ADUs and 1 below market rate unit. And this too, she worked with every single neighbor that lives back there and understands the concerns about evacuation routes and high fire danger and everything, and decided to put not as dense of a project that works well within the environment there. So again, a very nice project for Lafayette. The next one is 949 Moraga Road. We also approved this project where Sunflower Hill has partnered with Saha, an affordable housing builder, to create 48 units, 100% affordable for developmentally disabled adults. So we have offered, if they get their funding, the city has offered to actually donate them the land. And it is, so our staff and everybody in our city and our council and Sunflower Hill and Saha are working hard to try to get this one approved. It just to be cautious, it's most often these kind of projects don't make it their first year. And so we are cautiously optimistic that we'll get the funding in mid-August because it scores very highly. But if it doesn't, this is just round one. And we will definitely forge ahead and try for next year if we don't get the funding this year. But cross your fingers. All right. So SB 79. This is Senator Scott Wiener's latest bill about transit-oriented developments. So the first writing of this bill included massive upzoning, ministerial approvals, and no CEQA around all forms of transit, including rail and even bus stops. So the pushback along the whole state was huge, especially around these bus stops. So it's had a couple of iterations, but the most recent iteration is that there's these 3 tiers, and it was thought that Lafayette and basically all County would have been exempt from anything in SB 79, but that's actually not true. We're still in tier 3. And so we have some pretty massive impacts to Lafayette around our BART station. Most cities have opposed this bill. There's a lot of reasons other than just the stuff around the transit-oriented development. The people are opposing it. In particular, we all just finished our housing elements, and this just absolutely kind of dismantles the whole process of even doing housing elements, because this is going to be such a big effect on our city. So right now, right now it has passed out of the House of Origin, which is the Senate. It now sits in the Assembly. It's gone through 2 Assembly committees, and next is going to go through appropriations, and then it'll go to the Assembly floor. So Councilmember Cervantes and I are on our legislative committee, and we've gone and we've lobbied in Sacramento and are now working with Arinda and our lobbyist Townsend to change the language to exempt the tier 3 areas whose evacuation routes have high and very high fire risk in them, according to our fire marshal. And so why we think this is important is because when you come right down to it, if you look at our housing areas, including the Happy Valley Glen and Happy Valley, which are north of the freeway, these are single ingress and egress areas. And here I'm admitting something, that's Suzanne. And they are in high fire risk zones. They used to be in the very high fire risk zones, but the recent maps just changed. It does not change the risk to those people who live in these zones. So let me show you. Okay, so in order to change the language to exempt those areas, Lafayette and Orinda are meeting soon with the actual writers of SB 79, which is not Senator Scott Wiener. Our representatives rarely actually write the bills, but it's the Bay Area Council and California YIMBY. And so we're actually going to meet with them and try to get this language put into the actual bill. So here is, let me go back here to the map. All right. All right, the center here, I don't know if you can see oh, you can see, good. So these center little blue areas are the parking lots for BART. So this is another change in this bill, that they've made it very clear how to measure the quarter mile and the half a mile zones for BART stations. And so we always thought that it was right at the center, like where the fare gate was, and we drew a circle. In this bill, they've changed that, and they've made it be on any part of BART property. And so now the quarter mile and half a mile extends from the ends of the parking lots, not just a circle around the middle, which is why it's this now new ellipse shape. So if you look up here in the corner, within a quarter mile, it's supposed to be zoned up to 80 units per acre, up to 55 feet in height. So 80 units per acre, and this is before density bonus. And a density bonus can actually double that, because you can get double density bonuses now. 80 units per acre is higher than any other area in Lafayette, even including our downtown. The highest we've gone so far is 60. So within a half a mile, it's now 60 units. So you can see why this completely, for one, upends everybody's housing elements, because we chose to focus on our downtown for all the right reasons in terms of our EIR that came out. So if you look at the environmental impact report from when we were considering putting units on the BART lots, because the other law that we all already have is AB 2930, I think it is. No, that's not right. I'm not saying right. I will get that number. And it already upzoned our BART parking lots to 70 units per acre. So it's right in between these two. Again, before density bonus, which can 50% or even 100% go on top of that. When we had our consultant do the environmental impact report, what we found was that when we have a fire that is going to come from the east, which is our Diablo winds fires, which is the same equivalent to the Santa Ana winds in LA. When they come, the dry winds in the fall that come from the inland areas, these are the most dangerous fires. Those are the same fires that the winds that were blowing for the Oakland Hills fires, which is actually just 8 miles down the road from here. So if a fire comes from the east, the people in the Happy Valley Glen area right now, without the units built on the BART lots, can evacuate within 30 minutes. When we build, and BART is said that they're going to, when we build these, if there's no changes of traffic patterns or any mitigations, the people in the Happy Valley Glen will take an hour and a half to get out of their driveways and evacuate. So building just on the BART lots is going to cost an extra hour of evacuation times in Happy Valley Glen. And this is an EIR that we have signed off and is in our city records. So that is a health and safety impact for anybody that knows anything about the fires that we're seeing these days. Getting everybody out in 30 minutes versus an hour and a half can make a very big difference in terms of people's health and safety and the risk to the people who are living there. And this is why we are trying really hard to get this wording into this bill. And because you've got these, you can see these labels up here. These are evacuation zones. And so the evacuation zones are defined by Contra Costa Fire, and working with Andy Comley, who's our emergency prep person on the language in this bill. And he 100% agrees that, you know, these zones that have evacuation routes that are in these TOD areas, he goes, we have to just get exempt from those, because this would be devastating. Because not only are we going to build on the BART parking lots, if we start building in dense housing into these zones, it's just going to get worse. And we hope that the authors of SB 79, and there aren't that many areas like this in the state. Apparently it's Orinda. That's why Orinda's fighting. They have the same problem in Orinda. Orinda, there's apparently in Santa Cruz. I think there's some in not Santa Monica, maybe Malibu, not Malibu, but there's some in LA and some in San Diego. But it's just a handful of us that will get affected by this. And that's why we're willing to work so hard on these things. What they said, what Senator Wiener said in the last review was that, oh, we actually don't allow this, you know, this is exempt in high fire zones. It's not true. The wording in all the housing bills is circular. It says, oh, this doesn't apply to high fire zones. And then it says, according to statute over here, and you go to statute over there, and it goes, oh, but it is allowed as long as you build to the zone, the building codes for fire areas. And because whenever we do any building in Lafayette, of course, to get a permit, you have to, you know, be complying with our building codes. It means that it is allowed. And that's the circular logic that they're trying to use. And we're saying, no, you just have to exempt these regions. In addition, they have put language into SB 79 that says, oh, if you don't want to build in some areas, then you can force all that density in other areas. And so if we do that trade-off, if you look at the amount of land we have to do, it would make our downtown, I don't know, 100 brick, 200 acre, 350 an acre. I don't know. I mean, you're talking San Francisco type buildings. So we're trying to get, you know, exempted from all of that. So we're working really hard. You know, Jim and I, you know, and with our lobbyists and with Orinda, working hard on this. And also it's really important for, and also trying to work with Rebecca and Senator Grayson on this as well. They are very sympathetic to what is going on here, and look forward to us trying to get this language changed. All right, so I think that is it for my prepared statements, and I'll make this presentation available to the chamber so they can send it out to people that registered and maybe didn't, you know, come back. So, which I completely understand. Anyway, so if you guys have any questions.
Mayor Candell, thank you. What can the public do specifically around SB 79 to help?
Yeah, we should get a sample letter to write to Assemblymember Rebecca Darkhan and also Senator Grayson, as well as to Senator Wiener's office, in order to go, hey, you guys, you know, please try to include this language in this bill. Our city still opposes this bill, you know, and I just want to warn you that one, if they change the language, one of the things I'm sure they will ask is for Lafayette to remove our opposition. They may even tell us we have to sign a letter in, you know, supporting SB 79 if they take this language. But we will craft a letter that explains this decision, you know, based on the health and safety of our residents, you know, and that's why we're doing this.
That's so great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sharice.
I would just say it's going to the Appropriations Committee. So if you want to address the letter to all of the members of the Assembly Appropriations Committee, that would make sense.
I have a couple of questions that on the queue. The first is, number one, congratulations on the Vista feedback. That headline was really so perfect. The ADU incentives, can you talk about that a little bit? I know those are
My
new.
slide got erased. Yes, I do. Oh my gosh, that was one of the other things I wanted to talk about.
That's it.
We have a bunch of wonderful new ADU incentives. Let me stop my, okay, stop this presentation. And that somehow, that was supposed to be one of my first things. So let me bring this back up.
No.
And so basically we have reduced our fees by 50%. And the chamber has all this information, and I'll make sure that I get it into a thing. So we reduced our fees for the next couple of years. There's a grant program that Senator Glazer actually started, where you can get some money back if you apply for a grant. And we've got $50,000 to give out to people for ADUs. These are basically ministerial approved. They are our #1 housing supply increase in Lafayette for the last couple of years. We're building more ADUs than any other multifamily. We haven't built a multifamily in a while for a lot of reasons, but we're building a ton of ADUs. We're also going to get, probably by soon next year, we're going to get the pre-approved plans. And so you can go to our website and there will already be pre-approved plans. And if you choose those, we will, getting them approved through the county will just be that much easier. So those are the 3 fast track things. We signed up for each one of these programs as part of our housing element. And we're rolling out these programs as part of our housing element in order to increase the supply of housing in Lafayette. And it's been really successful, even without these incentives. And so we're hoping that these incentives will make it even better. Oh, and there's also and this has been here for a while, it's not new, but a grandfathering in of existing, quote unquote, if you've got a granny flat or an ADU, or you think it kind of might be an ADU or not, we can grandfather those in actually very easily.
Great.
So yeah.
That's under AB 2533, I think, something like that.
I think so, yeah. Yeah. I don't know which one.
I saw a stat somewhere that Lafayette has approved 46%, I think, of the new homes permitted in Lafayette were ADUs in the last 5 years. So that's great. I know there's some big properties out there. There was a question about Campana, and can you update us on that situation?
Sure. So when the city bought the Campana property, we were also going to try to get the property where Vino's was, because they connect in the back. And so we were going to try to make it for more access to the Park Theater, which is being renovated, and we hadn't decided what other uses, but that was the key on that. However, with the new laws on parking minimums near BART stations, and this does fall within that half a mile, we can't enforce any new developments in there to have any parking. And so that was one problem with it. The second problem is that we never were able to acquire the Vino property. And so the combination of those two made us reconsider the purchase of our Campana property. And so that it was a 2-step process. We can't sell public lands without complying with the Surplus Lands Act. And the Surplus Lands Act has changed dramatically over the last couple of years. And so in order for us to sell any land from the city, we have to go through a huge process of allowing affordable housing to be built there. And so it is a wonderful, well-intended process. It is quite onerous. And so, but there are some exemptions to that, and Campana falls in that because it's less than ½ an acre in size. And so first off, we did have to, we were able to proclaim it exempt public lands. And so we don't have to go through that process if we sell it. So the other part of this is that we did get somebody interested in the property. And so we declared it exempt public land, and now it is actually up for sale.
Great, thank you. Yeah. I did read a recent article about land. They called it land grab, but I know land buyers that sit and wait for developers to come along, and so maybe that's what's happening. Another question is on the not so fun side. Why is Lafayette still in a lawsuit if we've passed our housing element and done what we needed to do?
The $1 million question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a lawsuit filed against us by the Housing Action Coalition. That was earlier in the year and before we gotten our housing element approved. Since then, we did get our housing element approved, and we were cautiously optimistic that the lawsuit would be pulled, but it has not. And so the Housing Action Coalition in the Bay Area has also sued a couple of other cities, Pleasanton, San Mateo, and in both of those cases, well, actually, they only sued San Mateo. They threatened Pleasanton. In both of those cases, those cities decided to settle monetarily rather than go ahead to defend their housing elements. And we can't talk about what Lafayette is doing. I'm just telling you what has happened in other cities. And so we are in the process of figuring out, how to handle this all in closed session. But that's what other cities have done. And so, namely in San Mateo, the Housing Action Coalition was demanding the city pay their fee, all their expenses for the lawsuit, which is something that cities don't typically do. So instead, they struck a bargain instead the city of San Mateo donated $250,000 to their affordable housing fund, which in the end, instead of having lawsuits, shouldn't we be spending this money actually building affordable housing, right? I have a really good friend named Michael Barnes, who's a former Albany City Council member, who wrote a letter to the state auditor, who is actually auditing HCD at the moment, and described these lawsuits and saying, this is absolutely, it's basically when HCD certifies cities, then why are we still subject to lawsuits? And his remedy is that there are some other cases where HC departments up in Sacramento can give immunity after doing something like approving their housing element, right? Basically, are saying, hey, we are now say that because you're approved, you should be immune from lawsuits against this because we certified you. So I don't know. So my friend wrote that letter. The auditor he's a brilliant guy, and maybe we try to pursue something like that in the future through legislation.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's come a backup question for this, would we expect that a court might just throw this out when they take a look at this? That would.
I don't. It hasn't. None of the cases have gone to court. You go to the court on things like this, and it's very expensive. Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah. So let me know what other questions we have. Anybody's got burning questions for Mayor Candell? It's a smaller group today with reason, I guess. Stella, welcome. I hadn't seen you until this moment. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah, why don't you introduce yourself now that you're here?
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yeah, sorry I couldn't be on video to start. I was on the 680. So yes, I'm happy to see everyone here. My name is Stella Weatherspoon, and I am a 12.5-year resident of Lafayette. I've been involved with the city as a volunteer for about 6.5 years, working on the Transportation Circulation Commission and also on the General Plan Advisory Committee. So in the latter, I worked on the housing element and the safety element chapters. And in transportation circulation, I've been involved in all kinds of meetings regarding our transportation network, how to make it better, how to make it safer. And I'm just really, really pleased to be here with you all. And I look forward to serving the citizens of Lafayette.
Great, thank you.
And so just to add on to that, Stella was key in terms of implementing all of our safety around schools of the past couple of years. Absolutely pivotal, did the hard work, and helped us actually get modifications on the ground in front of each one of our schools. So thank you, Stella.
Oh, you're welcome. And let me just say back at you, because I was just a citizen to start. Well, I was on Transcirc, but Susan was the one who was on council and who made this a priority of council, which really gave it some of that muscle to push it forward. And then the council itself appropriated some funds that it had acquired, little pot, to get it all done all at once, which was just so valuable. Instead of having to do it piece by piece, with smaller amounts of funding. So yeah, it's been fantastic. I can tell you, it's definitely made it safer around the schools. I live over by Akalani's. I think we have a convenience store right across the street that gets a lot of business. It's not technically available during school hours, but lots of kids cross over, and now they have safe crossing to do it, which is better than before, even if they're not technically allowed to be doing it.
Yeah. Now, I was a chamber representative for the Vision Zero work in Lafayette, and that was part of this correction. So good job. Thank you for that. Jill, I saw your hand up. Did you have a question?
Sorry, I just have a donation truck that just pulled in front of my house and my dog started barking.
Oh, no.
Real quick, hold on.
There's been something going on with dogs lately. Our neighborhood has many dogs, very
Sorry.
busy. Go ahead, Jill.
Yeah, I just real quick, we've had some questions, Susan, about the Deer Hill development and the impacts on traffic with the schools and all of that. And I'm just wondering if there's any more information on like a traffic safety plan and all of that when construction starts.
You mean for the terraces, not the Oak Hill Place?
Yeah,
But the terraces.
Deer Hill and Pleasant Hill
right.
Road.
Is there, not that I'm aware of, actually. We've got the conditions of approval. They have to go through a whole bunch of steps. And so it is part of the approval process that they sign off, and they have to do certain things at certain times. I'd have to go through and look at that again in detail to find out, what, because there are definitely some things that they have to do during construction. Like we got the hours of construction in when we signed off on the approval. So that's actually a really good idea, because so you saw the big plates, those are actually samples of retaining wall materials I thought it was going to be building materials, but it's not. It's actually retaining wall materials. And those were just samples of the different types that they're going to be putting around the project. I know one fell down during that big windstorm, which is unfortunate, but and then we don't know exactly when it's going to start. But I remember Jill, you told us that the last piece was the design review that was going through the county, and they wanted to make sure that since all the buildings were going to look the same, they weren't have to pay special design review fees for every single building. They wanted to pay it once and review one instead of all 13. And that makes total sense. So I understand their desire to change that fee. And when those panels went up, I thought that was going to be building materials. And so I was talking to our staff and our design review committee. I'm like, hey, if this is going to be the material that we're using on all 13 buildings, don't you think our design review, we have one or two take a peek at this and get their input? And it's like, oh no, it's just the retaining walls. So yeah. But and our city manager does know that people are, and we had the schools asked to Akalani's, their representative asking to, hey, can you give us an update on what is going on? So I'll make sure to follow up on that we get something out soon.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Libby, you had a question? You have your hand up?
Yeah. This is excuse me, going back to SB 79. Hi, everybody. And welcome, Stella. I think that, well, most people on this call at least know the reputation of Scott Wiener. He has a propensity to, bully his way through all the committees.
Let's keep it nice, Well, do you have any question or something? Yeah.
But he also has a propensity to do this little trick and why it's why it's legal, I don't know, but you know, after that to gut and amend,
So what's the question, Libby?
Yeah, thank you.
well, I guess it's more a warning about doing anything with SB 79 except oppose it, because I mean it's such an egregious bill, and he could very well the night before the floor vote put it back to and include the bus stops and everything else.
Right. It does have to go through the floor, and because a lot of amendments have been made, it will have to go back to the Senate as well. And so this is not, the assembly vote is not the final vote. And so, and our lobbyist is on it. Casey has every single amendment. He's actually anticipated all the amendments, said, we think this is coming. And then when it gets into fine print, he sends us out, oh, it did happen. So we are watching this one extremely closely.
Thanks, Susan.
Mhm.
I was in the, and thank you, Libby. I'm on the Chiefs Advisory Board in Walnut Creek yesterday, and we had a discussion about what's going on in Walnut Creek as far as crime and things like that. And they did give great compliments to our new police chief, so that was super. What do you see are the biggest challenges for our police department, which I realize is more of their sort of question, but from your point of view?
The biggest challenge right now, you know, our downtown crime, we stay ahead of that. What's been nice is that with the new BART, what do you call those? The
Fare
entry
gates, yeah.
fare gates, the BART fare gates. We've actually seen a decrease in crime in our downtown,
Oh, that's
a
great.
noticeable decrease in crime. They're having, you know, less people run and try to go, you know, escape from the BART stations, you know. So everything is pointed that those fare gates have made our city safer, and that is terrific. You still can't stop the crazy ones with the car running through the front panels of, you know, the CVS. Those are hard, unless they wanted to, you know, put K-rail around our entire town. And so but they are extremely responsive. And once again, our solve rate, so we get crimes, but our solve rate in terms of solving and finding people and making them accountable for these crimes is, you know, pretty unmatched around, you know, any city, even in Contra Costa. You know, we're sitting at like 90% solve rates. And that is what our claim to fame is. And I don't think Jamie's gonna change that. We've got great, you know, investigators and a lot of tech around town that we adopted early, and it just pays off, and nice cooperation with other districts. Like I think it was the CVS ones. There was a call from San Francisco PD where we cooperated with them. It's like, I mean, that's amazing, you know, that you get cooperation from a city like San Francisco on something like that, because we traced the car into San Francisco. So yeah, that's number one. And then number two, you know, they are our partners in terms of emergency preparedness, right? They are the key people who will be organizing in case of emergency. So Andy Comley, who's our new emergency preparedness coordinator, is amazingly qualified for that job and has taken it on wholeheartedly, and knows that is a priority for our city in case of wildfire or earthquake or, you know, whatever else we may face. And so in terms of mitigation and trying to get, you know, our fuel breaks and, you know, all these things, that our police is right there with us as partners on this.
Great. Good to know those fare gates are making a difference. We should blast that out.
Yeah.
And Libby, you have a question regarding Cancer Support Group. Welcome. You want to come off mute?
I do. Happy Friday, everyone. It's really great to be here. And I was just wondering, you know, with the Lafayette Vistas and what a great opportunity that is and how well run it is. I'm here representing Cancer Support Community and the new Cancer Support Center that will be built in Lafayette. Is that a good opportunity for us to include our development in that? Or
I think that's a great idea. And it is called major projects. It's not major housing projects, you know, right? It's not just housing. So yes, it would totally fall under that. And I will yeah, we should put that on there.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Who should I be in touch with, Susan?
Naru,
Is that- Okay.
our amazing city manager.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you for that.
thank you, Catherine.
Yeah. And then I'd like to invite Holly, our operations manager at the chamber, to let us know what's going on with chamber events coming up. We're heading into season, right, Holly?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mayor Candell, for your time and all the information this morning. And thank you, Katie, for moderating. And great to see everyone today. Thank you so much for joining us. So the number one thing that people are asking is, when's the Art and Wine Festival? How's preparations going? And things are going great. We actually had a volunteer meeting last night. Great enthusiasm. People that have volunteered with us for decades, as well as some great new community members that just moved here. So make a note, it is the third weekend of September this year, September 20th and 21st. The next great event is our Lafayette Res Run for Education. And just last night, we reached over 800 runners, even though it's 800 registrations for runners. And that event is actually Sunday morning, October 19th. So I encourage you to help us promote both of these events because they're great community building and they bring in lots of money to our local nonprofits and our schools. We have some great networking events for our businesses starting next week. Next Wednesday, we have a mixer at the Lafayette Veterans Memorial Center. We also have our 4 affinity groups that will meet over the next month, our nonprofit group, our Lafayette businesswomen, young professionals, and our connectors group. We're also excited to welcome some brand new businesses to Lafayette with ribbon cuttings. We'll actually have quite a few ribbon cuttings over the next few months. The Lafayette Scoop, our hard ice cream scoop, just opened this past weekend in Lafayette Square. So I encourage you to check that out. Justine McPhee Interior Design is on Golden Gate Way, just almost across from the Park Theater. They have what they call a tiny shop interior design studio. Fit Lab Lafayette will be hosting a ribbon cutting in August. And we look forward to having a ribbon cutting this fall at Crosswater Creek, which is a new retail store in Mount Diablo, focusing on fly fishing. So that's just a few of our new and exciting things and our networking and our community events. We're all here to answer any questions you may have, but thank you again for joining us.
We're so fortunate to have an amazing chamber. I know I'm part of it, so I'm a little biased, but it's, you know, I live in
Hey, Catherine.
I chamber in Lafayette. So Mayor Candell, thank you so very much for your time.
So I was going to ask one more time if any of our elected leaders want to say anything, just to give them an opportunity, right? We have a couple minutes, so.
Well, and I don't have anything. You've done a wonderful job, Susan. I loved your PowerPoint and how you're communicating with the public about all the great things you're doing. I will say, with Lafayette going higher, ConFire, which, as most of you know, is the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors, who also sits as the board of ConFire, is eventually going to be looking at changing where Fire Station 15 is, which is where I share my Lafayette office, because we cannot fit tall ladder trucks into that fire station. And so that's something, it's not imminent, but it's something Chief Richard is starting to look around and talk to Narup about different parcels that may become available that are appropriate to build a new fire station at some point. And then Fire Station 15 site, of course, would be sold for other purposes. But you're in good hands still, because we do, of course, with Walnut Creek having the height, we've got some very tall ladder trucks there and in Concord. So if there truly was an emergency, we would get trucks there quickly. But just something, it's great to see the balance that Lafayette has had in creating new growth, new development, higher density in the core downtown, which really helps economic development. Shops don't have to shut at 5 p.m. every night if people are going to be walking and shopping in the evening, but you're preserving your beautiful neighborhoods and, more importantly, your hillsides. So Great job with what you're doing, and just very excited to continue to see all that is happening, and excited to, I met Stella yesterday at our Solid Waste Authority, and as your representatives may have conveyed, we did just enter into a new contract with Republic Services to be the hauler moving forward for our next contract. They've made substantial improvements in collection post-COVID, where a lot of us weren't getting our trash picked up. And there are some very clear standards in place so that if your trash is not getting picked up, you are automatically going to be refunded in the future. So anyway, thank you, Susan. Fabulous job.
Oh, thank you. And music to my ears on the fire station, a ladder truck.
And I'll
thank
comment
you.
that, you know, I've lived in a lot of places, and the mutual aid connection that Lafayette has with the surrounding communities is really unmatched, from police to fire to everything else, bomb squads, all of that stuff. So we're in a really good spot here.
It's your
Stella, any
sheriff's department. They do a great job as your contract police department.
Yeah. Stella, any closing comments, or Sharice?
I just wanted to say welcome, Stella, and very excited to meet you. I'm very impressed with all of your experience and dedication. And congratulations to Lafayette for the Lafayette Vistas brochure. That's something we've been sharing actually with other cities throughout AD 16. It's a wonderful example of how you share out your growth and development plans with your community. And we're excited that you're looking into the pro-housing designation, and happy to help you out with that. It's so far Walnut Creek and now Moraga within AD 16 have that designation, and it really does open up a wealth of opportunity in terms of funding and support for your plans. So happy to help and reach out anytime, and we're of course in touch on SB 79 as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next coffee with our community partners will be with Councilmember Stella. So please join us. That is Friday, August 22nd. I'm putting the link in the chat right now.
And I look forward to speaking with you all at that meeting. And I really would love to hear more about business concerns with respect to anything in downtown.
Great.
So bring your questions.
Well, thank you all, and thank you again, Mayor Candell, and everyone for attending. And sorry for the little hiccup at the start, but I think we ended up on a high note. So
We did.